Hey, how y'all doing? Got one for you today called Wade in the Water by Harvey Mandel off the Cristo Redentor album. Oh, yeah. The first album that I received after coming back from nowhere, Virginia, and landed back in California, and my old bandmate showed me, "You want an album? Here's an album." Boy, was he right. Always loved this. Cristo Redentor, Wade in the Water. Harvey Mandel, baby. Let's go. Oh, yeah. So as the story starts out, this is the first night that we'd actually spent in Bahia, aside from arriving and shivering underneath the truck. This is the first night that we had our cabin and we were, all set up. And all night long we had entertained and visited with the local male Indians, and they brought a guitar and they all sang, and we had a guitar and keyboard and we sang, and we'd trade off the guitar with them if they needed two guitars. And it was just glorious because every side patiently waited while the other side played their song because for one thing, it was entertaining. And for the next thing, you got to play after that. So it was a great formula in patience, okay, we're listening to this. And, when they played, it was classical, as far as I could tell. I didn't recognize them especially. Classical Mexican songs, and they harmonized to them, tear your heart out. And they were wonderful. So most of them, they could use two guitars. They were that classic to them. Occasionally, there was a song where they only needed one guitar because only one person knew how to play that piece, so they didn't need Ted's guitar. Okay. And then it would come back to this. And in between each turn, after they sang their song, before we sang our song, and after we sang our song before they sang their song, we made sure that everyone was supplied with Dos Equis beer. Just checking one around to every single one. Take another. And anybody need vodka? Anybody at all? Here's vodka. We had cigars. Some people took them, some people didn't. One person left his on because he was ashamed to say he didn't want one, so he just left it over there. That's okay. But that's the kind of night it was. It was just a great time was had by all. They didn't look at us as tourists, and we didn't look at them as slaves. We looked at them as, "Hey, buddy, how's it going?" Because we knew them from when Ted was here in Bahia before. He met the head local Indian. I'm sorry, I don't remember his name, but Ted remembered that he had a guitar. So what Ted did in this remembrance, in knowing where we were and how obscure it freaking is, baby, he brought him a set of new guitar strings. The guy was floored. I mean, he was, "Hey, Ted Amigo, how are you? The croquet casa." And then he gave him the guitar strings, and he was just, he was overwhelmed with joy because, first of all, you got to get the money for them. Get this off of here. Then you got to figure out a way for somebody to go get them. Then you got to figure out a way for somebody to bring them back. And that's a whole lot of things to arrange when you're just a local Indian in this obscure little town. So Ted brought him a set of strings, and he immediately, unheard of, immediately took the three amigos, Ted, Annabelle, and I, up to his house on the second tier, because the first tier is down by the road. Everybody can get to you. He lived on the second tier, where sure they can still get to you, but you have to put a little effort into it. So that means he's left alone a whole lot more, unless somebody thinks it's really important. You know. So great stuff, Maynard. So he took us, after giving him the guitar strings, he took us up to his wonderful little, if I had built something, it would be like this. It was small but functional, clean inside. When we went in the kitchen, there was a wood stove, and there was a table, a roundish table that we filled up with the four of us, our amigo and us three. He sat with us. His wife, doing the Mexican-style wifely duties, never spoke to us. Say hi, didn't say hi, but nodded. And we said, "How are you?" We were always very friendly to her every chance we got, even though she didn't respond. Her main job was to make sure that the guests were happy and that the guests had no complaints and that the guests enjoyed themselves. And she did that by we were there for lunch, so she started cooking tortillas and tamales. And kept bringing them over in heat covered, and then you lift the heat and then we take it out, and every time she brought it over we said thank you. She couldn't talk to us, but that didn't mean we couldn't say thank you to her. And we also said thank you to our benefactor then, because he's throwing the party. There was no problem at all with this etiquette. I mean, she just couldn't talk, and we could appreciate it, and we did. And he appreciated the chance to show us his thanks, because we brought him guitar strings, man. You know how long it takes to get guitar strings if you're an Indian in this little town? Here's how it works. When you have a guitar set of strings and you break a string, you learn how to play the guitar with 5 strings. And if you break another string, well, you learn how to play the guitar with 4 strings. Oh, yeah. Well, he wasn't playing the guitar with 4 strings anymore. He had a whole brand new pack, man, and he was ready, loaded for bear. And what he did in thanks was we invited him at that time down to our house for cervezas. About 12 midnight, him and all his friends. In Mexico, they don't bring their wives or girlfriends. It's just the way it is. So we had the man, and we had about 10 other young studs who, it's the off season, so they haven't got a whole lot to do. And we aren't disturbing anybody because they're the ones that are there. There's nobody to disturb. So we drink and play a song, and they drink and play a song, and this went on until about 12:31 in the morning, and a more glorious time was never had by anyone. A fond memory, and cemented us into the non-tourista category. We weren't tourists, we were amigos, and that's a beautiful thing. Now, it's after our friends have left that it occurs to me that I need to go swimming. Because I used to take swimming when I was like 11. And I was always very good at it, and that's the only memory I really have of my swimming ability. So I undressed and simply, tonnaged down into the water and slowly got in and slowly started swimming out. Now, as it turns out, I couldn't swim like I used to be able to. Instead of moving through the water, I was like a barge in the water. But I could still make headway, and it didn't kill me that I couldn't move as fast as I used to, because whenever I got tired, I just turned over on my back, and my tonnage was similar to what it is now. And my tonnage stomach would float, and I would just put my face up, and I could breathe and rest as long as I wanted to. Very effective. Swimming ability or not, you know. So I turned back over and I kept swimming, and then all of a sudden this haranguing starts from the shore. It's Ted saying, "Dennis! Dennis!" The poor sap couldn't hear me or see me or anything. It was just black on the water, whereas I could hear him and see him as if he were whispering in my ears, just the way the acoustics are in this particular situation. Nothing I ever did resulted in him hearing anything I said. I even went so far as to kick my way up out of the water and say, "What the heck do you want?" And I didn't do that again because it didn't work, didn't make any, he didn't hear that. So yeah, I responded here and there, but he never heard me. So I had set my sights on a boat that was about a half a mile out. Why? No particular reason, it was just there. So that'll be a good, and it turns out that I could still float on my, excess, because that was a long way out. If I had had to swim that far, I would have drowned. But since I was able to, flab my way out there, I finally got there after quite a long time and got to the edge of the boat, and there was no ladder. There was no easy way to get up there. I don't know what I expected. I didn't want anything from them. I wasn't going to take anything. It's just that I had planned on getting on board and saying, "Hey, hero, made it, yeah, on the tops, baby." Well, not quite. I couldn't lift myself enough up out of the water to get on board. I tried it a couple times and then realized that all I needed to do was just hang on and rest. And that's what I did for a while, and that was a lot like me floating on my back. So I had, was acquainted with resting. So here we go. It's finally time to start swimming back, and I still occasionally hear Ted say, "Dennis!" I say, "Yeah, man, what?" Never heard me. Now, it's when I'm swimming back, and I'm about, 50 feet from the shore. Ted isn't yelling anymore. Ted's given up. Ted figures I'm dead. So why would he be yelling, He gives up yelling and goes back to the porch and starts drinking whatever he's drinking. And so when I finally made it to the shore, there was no big fanfare. There was no, "Hey, buddy, how you doing? Glad you made it. What a great accomplishment." No, there was nothing like that. There was no one there. So how you walk and all this water tonnage drifts off you each step. Well, by the time I made it up to the cabin front porch where all the booze was, and I went up there and Ted said, "I thought you were dead." And I said, "Well, I'm not. Where's the beer?" And we proceeded to have a glorious evening after that, now that his paranoia had been satiated and I had come back and I had survived. And what a glorious evening. And we thank Harvey Mandel for Christopher Redentor and Wade in the Water Baby. Nice to see you. Be good to each other. Probably have another vacation vignette, later. Get it out of it.